Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
The Office of Personnel Management has kicked off another major human resources modernization effort. And unlike its effort to consolidate 119 different HR systems across the government, this one came with little fanfare. OPM is planning to revamp the USA Hire platform, which provides agency hiring managers candidate assessment tools with the goal of making evaluations more efficient and leading to higher quality of applicants. For more on OPM's newest HRIT modernization initiative, Federal News Network's executive editor, Jason Miller, joins me now. Jason, great to have you here.
Always a pleasure.
What is the current state of USA Hire?
USA Hire platform has been around for several years. Agencies can use it as a fee-for-service offering from OPM's HR Solutions Office. But basically what it does is its ability to say, hey, which candidates are going through an assessment process? Do they meet our assessment needs? And it's fairly popular across the agency. OPM says in 2024, USA Hire customers assessed more than 1 million applicants for over 20,000 job opportunity announcements. And really what it's trying to provide is off-the-shelf standard assessment, what they call batteries, right? Covering more than 140 federal job series. They have access to test center locations worldwide, and it's a broad array of assessments and IT expertise that comes with it. So I think what they're saying is, hey, we want to provide better assessments, and you know, the technology over the years has changed, and does USA Hire provide that technology and those for assessment tools that we want anymore? So OPM is starting to ask that question.
How did they get the acquisition planning for upgrading this system started?
It's interesting because during the shutdown, the partial government shutdown that we just got out of, they released an RFI, a request for information, and they basically asked industry for lots of details. And we have a link to the full RFI on federalnewsnetwork.com so people can click on it and look at it there. But basically, they said, tell us about your system. Does it deliver assessments in a secure, unproctored, asynchronous environment? Can you do online video-based interviews? Can you use AI and machine learning in those assessments for development and scoring? How do you mitigate the use of AI by, for instance, the applicants, so they're not quote unquote cheating on their assessment, right? And then how do you integrate and deliver assessments across multiple assessment platforms? So those are a few of the highlights that they're asking for in that RFI. And basically what OPM is saying is, hey, how do we get better about this? How do we be more adaptive? How do we do multiple forms? How do you do in person but also unproctored? How do you do virtual, right? How do we use all these tools that we're seeing in the private sector to assess candidates? And I think that is really the key here, that they're trying to say the current USA Hire is fine, but we know that there's more out there. We know there's better technology out there. How do we access that technology?
What are you hearing from the industry folks who've had a chance to take an early look at the RFI?
Generally speaking, I'm hearing positive response. I think a lot of folks have said, listen, USA Hire is fine. It's been adequate for most of the things the government does. I spoke to one executive at a firm who requested anonymity because they potentially are bidding on this. And they said, listen, USA Hire has been a bit of a monopoly. Maybe they got a little bit of, and I'll use quotes here, Terry, fat and lazy. And maybe they got a little bit of a kick in the butt by the DOJ folks to say, hey, could we do this better? Why are we running this? And I think the RFI may be a reaction to that. The other thing I've heard is there's been a lot of concerns that USA Hire doesn't integrate with outside platforms, meaning like if you want to do USA staffing, you have to use USA Hire. If you want to use some of the other tools that OPM's HR Solutions Office provides, you have to use USA Hire. And I think that was a bit of a frustration because not everybody will use USA Hire. Some people will use other commercial platforms, but they want that integration. OPM seems to be saying in this RFI, how could we do that integration with those other non kind of USA Hire platforms? And I think that the person I spoke to said that's also a very positive sign. Now, a lot of these, it's an RFI, so it's the first step. There's not necessarily an RFP coming right away. So I think they're saying there's a lot of devil in the details that is still yet to come.
Well, as you say, the RFI is just the first step, and it sounds like this may take a few years to get through the RFI and on to whatever the latest technology is. What are they going to do with USA Hire in the meantime?
So the current contract is with a company called PDRI. They're the support services contract, and the RFI that OPM put out was really to replace that support services contract. And let's be clear, not necessarily replace PDRI. There's no one's complaints about them per se, but this idea, okay, how do we kind of continue to move this process forward? So, but in the meantime, to your point, they're still the schedule that OPM has laid out, according to sources that have told me, is maybe a draft RFP in January, a final solicitation in October, and then so an award probably wouldn't happen until 2027. In the meantime, OPM expects huge usage of USA Hire, so they put out what they call a JNA, a justification and approval, to increase the ceiling of their current contract with PDRI. They're adding $182.7 million to the ceiling of the contract, so for a total of about $395 million. And the reason why they said they expect a big usage from the Transportation Security Administration, their adoption of USA Hire over the last couple of years have really spent a lot of money against it, so they need a bigger ceiling. And then they also expect more folks to use it. For instance, they expect 300,000 applicants for TSA jobs, 10,000 entry-level investigators for the U.S. Immigration and Customs Service, as well as a lot of what they call smaller customer agencies, spanning whether it's cybersecurity position, tax fraud investigations, entry-level credit union examiners, and HR specialists. So they just expect a huge uptick in usage over the next year and a half. And a lot of it, according to the OPM spokesperson, said is to implement skills-based assessments as required under the Merit Hiring Plan from the administration, as well as the Chance to Compete Act that Congress passed in 2024.
It sounds like this may be the place where a lot of these HR innovations are going to come together. As you mentioned, skills-based hiring, merit hiring, some of those other changes.
I think, Terry, you're spot on that. And in many ways, what OPM is doing is really trying to change the overall hiring process. And to do that, you got to change the technology too that underlies that process, right? If you change your process and have bad technology, or if you have great technology but bad processes, those two things don't necessarily come together well. And I think what we're seeing and what the OPM spokesperson told me is that this USA Hire RFI is step one. They also expect to have other updates to, for instance, USA Jobs, right? USA Staffing, also to enhance the applicant experience, better integrate assessments into these job announcements. So I think all of this is part of a broader initiative. And unlike, as you said at the top of our discussion, when they launched this effort to consolidate 119 different human capital systems across government, they put a blog post out, they put several RFPs out, they had some fits and starts. This one was very quiet, and I think this one could have as much of an impact as that consolidation could have.
That's Federal News Network's executive editor, Jason Miller. We'll look forward to watching the development of the HR portfolio.
Absolutely. There's always a lot going on in the federal HR world.
You can find his story at federalnewsnetwork.com.